The substance. What is the price of your youth? Hello everyone! In this video we will be discussing the new film The Substance starring Demi Moore. It's a dark body horror comedy. The film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 2024, where it was nominated for the Palme d'Or and won the award for Best Screenplay. It's deeply metaphorical, beautifully shot, and tackles a highly relevant theme. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, so I wanted to share my thoughts with you. We'll talk about the meaning of the film, the ideas it conveys, the symbols to look out for, and the significance of the ending. Let's dive in. You're watching my channel about storytelling, so if you're interested in storytelling, movies and their meanings, subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. It would mean a lot to me and it helps others discover this content as well. So the story follows Elizabeth Sparkle, played by Demi Moore. Once a celebrated Hollywood actress with an Oscar to her name, she is now an aerobics instructor. On her 50th birthday, her boss Harvey fires her due to her age. Elizabeth spirals into self-criticism and despair. After a minor car accident, she is offered a mysterious drug called Substance. This drug alters her DNA, transforming her into a younger, better version of herself. However, there is a catch. The better version will only last for 7 days, and after it, she'll have to revert to her original self. The premise is undeniably unique and feels especially relevant to those working in industries like film and entertainment, where physical appearance is paramount. For those outside such fields, the pressure to maintain youthfulness might not be as intense. The film has a clear 3-act structure. The first introduces Elizabeth before she takes the substance. The second act depicts her transformation and her new, younger self's you. Finally, the third act descends into chaos as Sue completely loses control, ultimately killing Elizabeth. By the end, Sue is left without a donor, which raises the stakes further. Visually, the film is stunning, employing art house techniques like close-up of faces, slow-moving scenes, and diagonal compositions. The cinematography features long corridors that Elizabeth frequently walks through, and her silence in key moments adds to the film's haunting tone. Particularly striking is Sue's consistent silence, which amplifies the unsettling atmosphere. The soundtrack is also remarkable, intense, eerie, and perfectly complementing the tension throughout the film. The central theme of the movie is the fear of aging, a universal concern particularly for women. This fear often doesn't surface until one begins to notice the first signs of aging. Personally, I'm 33 years old and I've always looked younger than my age. I vividly remember turning 30 and being mistaken for someone much younger, even needing to show my passport at times to prove my age. However, as time goes on, the changes become noticeable. For example, I've started to see gray hairs, which feel jarring as a brunette. Other changes, like the shifting of teeth that were once straight after braces, are subtle reminders of time's relentless passage. Even at 33, I sometimes feel the weight of age and realize I'll never be 22 again. Society often exacerbates these fears, especially with its skewed standards. There is a pervasive culture where men pursuing significantly younger women is normalized, putting immense pressure on women to look younger for as long as possible. Many resort to cosmetic interventions, injecting their foreheads, lips, and more to delay the visible effects of aging. One of my teachers once gave us memorable advice. Look at yourself now, you're 17. One day you'll look back at old photos and realize you've never been more beautiful. Appreciate yourself as you are. The sentiment ties directly to the message or the substance, a call to embrace and love yourself in the present moment without fixating on lost youth. In the movie, Demi Moore plays a 50-year-old character, but in real life she is 60 years old. Look at her figure, it's impressive. She looks great. and it's admirable that she is not shy about her age. At 60, she is practically a grandmother, yet she still looks amazing. Her character, Elizabeth, didn't even think there was anything wrong with her until a man who preferred younger women pointed it out. The film is full of scenes where men look at aging women, focusing on their aging bodies, the changes that come with age, like less firm skin. It's interesting that Elizabeth only realizes her own beauty when she's lost most of her vitality, when she's almost like a 90-year-old woman with no eyelashes and a hunched back. She looks at a photo of herself at the age of 50 and thinks that maybe she could still live on. At first, when she suffers a small injury with her arm, it seems like just one flaw she could live with. But she hates it so much. She hates her old self so much that she has a panic attack when she tries to go out with a man. But even then, she looked beautiful. And she could have stopped everything and lived with this flaw. Maybe she could have hidden it, but it wouldn't have turned her into the grotesque version of herself she became. I think we can all agree that this is very metaphorical, because we live our lives the same way. Some of us are overweight, some have breasts that are too small or too large, or hair that isn't quite right. Most of us don't like some parts of ourselves, and maybe we should just forget about it and move on, because we'll never be as young as we are now. It's also interesting to note the casting choices, which are not accidental. For example, Demi Moore dated Ashton Kutcher for many years, and he was younger than her. She faced a lot of complexes and issues related to her appearance and age, so it makes sense that she was chosen to play the aging, fading Elizabeth. Similarly, Margaret Qualley was also carefully chosen for the role. There is a moment when she mentions on a talk show how much she owes to Elizabeth. Margaret Qualley, by the way, is the daughter of a famous person, and children of celebrities often have an easier path to fame. This phenomenon is called nepotism, and these children are called nipple babies. The next theme that comes up in the movie is the price of youth. How much are you willing to pay to get younger? Notice how the plot develops. Elizabeth takes a supply of the substance for 14 days, 7 days for herself and 7 days for her younger version. The first time, everything works out without incident, but things take a turn when she takes a second dose. Write in the comments, what price would you be willing to pay to look younger? Would you consider Botox, lip fillers, or even plastic surgery for rejuvenation? I'm really curious about your opinion. Another theme explored in the movie is how we sacrifice our real selves to meet societal standards, trying to please others. Since the early 1990s, many girls have struggled with extreme dieting, following trends like heroin chic. There is why the rise of body positivity is now so important today. It's hard to watch people harm themselves to comfort the impossible ideas. Remember the super skinny models from the 90s and early 2000s, weighing 45 kilos at a height of 185 centimeters? That's far from normal. The movie reflects this metaphorically, especially when Sue essentially kills Elizabeth. It's as if she destroys her true self, leaving only the fabricated ideal. She is symbolized by Elizabeth's yellow cloak, which she identified with and constantly wore. The yellow coat appears at the beginning of the movie as well, symbolizing her individuality. In one of the opening scenes, we see a yellow yolk separating from a neck against a blue background, a foreshadowing of her transformation. Later, her eyes separate during the change, hinting at the kitchen and egg dilemma. Which come first, Elizabeth or Sue? The symbolism carries through the film. Sue's nightmare features a chicken, and Elizabeth, during her struggles with bulimia, consumes only chicken and eggs, staples of a fitness-focused diet. It's a poignant commentary on how social pressures push us to conform to unrealistic beauty standards. Women often reshape themselves to appeal to men or meet society's expectations. When we fail, we begin to hate ourselves, leading to severe mental and physical health issues like eating disorders. It's amazing how harshly women criticize themselves, when in reality they are beautiful. When I look back at pictures of myself from 10 years ago, I think, why didn't I appreciate my beauty back then? Many women feel this way. In the movie, this realization is depicted beautifully when the elderly Elizabeth looks at her 50-year-old portrait and finally understands there was nothing wrong with her all along. She could have stopped trying to fix herself and focused on something else. The theme becomes more vivid, even more vivid, when Sue injects herself again with the activator, despite it being labeled for one-time use. This detail, classic Chekhov's gun, highlights the endless cycle of self-criticism. Sue believes she needs an even younger, better version of herself, showing that this pursuit of perfection has no end. Time moves inexorably forward, and even 25-year-olds will eventually age. Chasing beauty at any cost turns you into something grotesque, a creature with two faces, incapable of walking, barely human. The drug exacerbates this deterioration, leading to mental confusion for both Sue and Elizabeth. Sue's recklessness highlights her disregard for the future. She locks Elizabeth up for 3 months, draining her body's fluid, even though she knows that if Elizabeth dies, so will Sue. This denial of reality feels careless, but it mirrors the mindset of those struggling with addiction or mental health issues. It's like knowing that overindulging in the present will cause pain tomorrow, but being unable to stop. Elizabeth's spiral into bulimia exemplifies this cycle. She starves herself to maintain an unnatural thinness and then loses control, eating excessively. Her mental state deteriorates to the point when she decides to go on stage for a New Year's Eve show, a live event watched by the entire country, even though she doesn't look remotely presentable. Apparently, Elizabeth has such a mental breakdown that she decides to go on stage during a New Year's show that's being watched by the entire country. While she doesn't look entirely terrible, she appears monstrous. Her transformation is horrifying. This moment becomes the climax of the film. A younger girl in the same dress stands waiting for her on stage, and the famous music from A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick plays, giving the scene a solemn and eerie atmosphere. The film takes an even darker turn here, with visual references to the infamous prom scene from Stephen King's Carrie, where the protagonist splashes everyone with blood. The liquids in the scene, paired with Elizabeth's action, make it clear that she did everything out of love. She even had a card in her bouquet that said, "They will all love you." This underscores the tragic reality of a woman pushing herself to such extremes to be loved. The story ends with Elizabeth's original face crawling towards her star on the Walk of Fame before disappearing entirely. This star, which appeared at the beginning of the film, ties the narrative back. Its bookends. The filmmakers seem to suggest that life is a cycle. Youth fades, old age comes, and trends like fashion inevitably return. For instance, the film shows the young, vibrant Sue in 2024 dancing in front of the camera in neon pink leotards, reminiscent of the aerobics of the 80s. There is also an underlying theme of parenting yourself, where Sue feels like she's born out of Elizabeth, almost like her daughter. The concept of self-parenting is gaining prominence in many films. Surprisingly, it appears in unexpected places such as Poor Things, where Margaret Qualley also starred. In that story, a scientist transplants the brain of an unborn child into the body of its deceased mother, a fascinating and unusual narrative. Similarly, Barbie explores this theme, albeit in a more mystical way. Other references in the movie echo Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, particularly through the stitched-back imagery and the picture of Dorian Gray, with its exploration of vanity and identity. And it also resembles us Requiem for a Dream. The film employs various storytelling tropes and screenwriting tools. There are also clever brick jokes throughout the films. For example, when casting for new girls in the program, the producer jokes that the previous candidate had breasts instead of a nose. Later, when the monstrous Yu appears, she literally had a breast in the place of her nose. Similarly, the line "Beautiful girls always smile," spoken by the producer, is recalled by Sue as she hangs up a portrait of Elizabeth. Another humorous moment comes when Sue cancels her subscription to the substance. The cancellation message is like email saying "Sorry, didn't appreciate our service, goodbye." It's reminiscent of unsubscribing from Netflix or similar platforms. Finally, one aspect I didn't fully understand was the recurrent depiction of long corridors in Elizabeth's studio and home. She is often shown walking through them, perhaps symbolizing her journey of self-discovery or her feelings of being lost and confused. What do you think? Let's discuss in the comments. I'd love to hear your interpretations. The movie doesn't have a clear antagonist. Traditionally, the antagonist opposes the protagonist, and here we have Elizabeth and Sue as two sides of the same person. While Elizabeth is more clearly the protagonist, Sue doesn't really act as the antagonist. Even the producer isn't an antagonist. He is more of a representation of societal norms and collective male standards. Instead, the central conflict lies within Elizabeth herself. If Elizabeth had been kinder to herself and less fixated on her looks, she could have found balance. She could live 1 week as a younger version of herself and another week simply as she is, perhaps even older, though she wouldn't even truly qualify as old. Consider how someone like Demi Moore lives an active, vibrant life in her 50s. She appears in videos, dates younger men, and also takes time to rest, recover, and enjoy quieter activities. But Elizabeth's internal conflict makes this kind of balance impossible, and her pursuit of perfection ultimately consumes her. Interestingly, some American reviews point out that the film represents the 7 deadly sins. That's all I wanted to share about The Substance. Let me know in the comments if you've seen the film, did you like it? What interesting details did you notice? And most importantly, would you use the substance? Would you inject it in the hope of maintaining balance and youth? It's a fascinating question and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Hi there, my name is Tanya and I'm the author of these video reviews. Here I publish my take on movies, TV shows, TV series and their storytelling. Subscribe not to miss new videos. See you!